Welcome everybody to the Executive Cabinet member meeting. The first item on the agenda is the monitoring of Executive Cabinet member decisions, and you have an enclosure. Members, any comments, questions or queries? No? Okay, item 2, Children's Services Financial Monitor. This is for Q1 and you have an enclosure. Any comments, questions or queries?
Councillor Hayes.
Councillor Hayes.
Yes, thank you, Executive Member. I'll probably show my lack of knowledge of this area by this question, but I'm obviously concerned by the 8.4 million we had to put in from reserves and the projected deficit of reserves at the end of the year. Presumably the extra pressures on children's services, which we've known about for some years, are going to continue. What are our plans for coping with it next year?
Thanks for that, Roger. I think Lisa wants to come in. Lisa.
Thank you, Chair. Excellent question, Councillor Hayes. Quite rightly, as you can see, the deficit for this year is an 8.4 overspend within children's services. Previously, in previous years, we have been overspending, but we have had reserves to be able to cover this. So being able, as a one-off, being able to go forward. This is the first year that we have not been able to do this, and we are now in a deficit within our departmental reserves. So what that means is that from a department's point of view, we have now got a deficit of £6 million, and some of the other reserves in that particular. So you'll see the appendix at the back. You'll be able to see that there are some which are actually ring fenced, so we can't actually use to just collapse into one to offset the general reserves. So what the DCS, Bernie Brown and myself has been doing is raising this with the Borough Treasurer, Tony Glennon, and there has been talks within CLT, which is with Sue Johnson, to talk about how we match demand and look at how this can be covered. From our point of view, although we show a deficit within our reserves at this moment in time, corporately, we have reserves that is able to balance overall. So we are looking at how we can actually put the base budget right and then look forward to say, how do we then carry on and be able to mitigate future demand, which, as you can imagine, is very difficult in these times, because you can see that nationally we have problems with unit costs, with cost of living, etc. So these are the things we're going to be mitigating and trying to do something different with.
Can I come back?
Yes, of course, Roger.
As this is being recorded, I think it's worth making the point this isn't incompetence in the children's department. It, in my view, is purely or almost entirely due to government funding that isn't sufficient to meet the needs when at a time when we've got increasing pressures. I don't know if you'd like to come in on that, Executive Member, but that's my view.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Roger, but I think, as Lisa said, it's not unique to Bolton. I think this is inherent across the whole country, and you know, until we get a change in the financial institutions to say that they're going to give us more funding, we will continue to work year to year and try and manage and mitigate this as best we can.
Okay.
Okay. Item 3 is the VCSE development project report, and you have an enclosure. Which office is taking this, please?
I am, Chair. It's Tracy.
That's Tracy. Thanks, Tracy. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. This paper is presented to you today to complete an open tender procurement exercise with the express intention of identifying a partner or a provider network to further enhance Bolton's internal residence sufficiency. The paper talks you through the introduction, which gives you a little bit of context around the fact that in Bolton we do have sufficient available supported accommodation. However, where we have a more challenging picture, and it kind of picks up Lisa's conversation around the financial pressures, is around residential sufficiency. So when I speak about residential sufficiency, we were talking about those looked after young children or people who are aged under 16 and due to a variety of reasons are not able to be placed within borough and therefore are placed out of borough. Section 1.4 gives you a little bit of a breakdown of the ambition of this project in terms of the provision of children's residential care over a 10-year period. This is a really exciting paper in the sense of it really sets out our strategic intention to develop a local offer which is fit for purpose and supports the sufficiency in Bolton. Section 1.5 just gives you a detail that fact that this aligns to our 10-year housing and care support prospectus, and it details in a little bit more detail the objectives, and that's in 1.5 for those members who wish to read that in detail. So the development of this local sufficiency, we hope to alleviate the above by partnering with an experienced local provider or a provider network, and that's really important. So this paper is really focused on working with existing Bolton provider or provider network to be able to enhance our local offer. Section 1.6 through to 1.12 gives you some more detail around what that ambition looks like and how we intend to mobilise that over that period of time. Section 2 highlights some of the challenges to sufficiency, and that's not least some of the points that Lisa's just picked up on around rising demand of young people who present with much more complex needs. We also need to consider the inflation pressures and the cost of living pressures, and that's resulted, unfortunately, in less foster carers being able to accommodate children, and therefore we have a higher demand in residential placements. So that section just details some of those challenges. So in summary, Chair, the paper is asking for approval to commission and tender for a proposed partnership or with an independent voluntary sector provider or a provider network who can deliver both short and long-term aspects of this ambitious specification. I would like to assure members that this will directly support our market positioning sufficiency objectives and will ensure that we have local provision to meet those young people most at challenge. Option 2 does detail we could continue to manage with the current sufficiency difficulties, but that is increasingly challenging. Our preferred option is option 1. To assure members financially, there is no expectation that there would be additional costs. The new model, although we cannot be specific on the finances at the moment, it is intended to be cost neutral. So as young people move back into borough, that investment would be within the internal services. There is an equity impact assessment. The screening has been done and the legal section has been considered. Therefore, we're asking to grant permission to an open procurement exercise, which will allow for this proposal to be mobilised. And I'm happy to take any further questions, Chair.
Thank you, Tracy. Members, any comments, questions, queries? Maureen, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mine's not a question, it's just a comment, really. I think this is an absolutely brilliant initiative if it's successful. In an ideal world, we wouldn't want any of our looked after children to be out of borough unless it was for their own safety. So yes. I'm all in support of this. I think it's wonderful. Thank you,
Councillor.
Thanks, Maureen. Any other members? Questions, comments, queries? Thank you. I am minded to approve the recommendations in the report. Thank you. The next report is Governing Services, a reconstitution, and this is, I think, Geraldine.
It is, Chair. Thank you. This report is requesting approval to change the constitution and amendments of instruments to 7 of our schools' governing bodies. They want to either increase the members of their governing bodies or reduce the members of their governing bodies because it's based on whatever works best for them as a school. There are 7 of our primary schools that are requesting this, so I'll just take you through the list. It is on the report. It's Church Road, Edgerton, Gaskell, Markland Hill, Oxford Grove and St Mary's CE. And I'm happy to take any questions or comments, but we're recommending that this is approved.
Members, any questions, comments, queries? Okay, I am minded to approve the recommendations of the report.
Thank you.
The next item this morning is the proposed expansion of the Special Educational Needs and Disability Resource provision at Queensbridge School. You have an enclosure, and I think Paul's going to take us through this. Paul?
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, we're proposing expansion to the SEND unit at Queensbridge. We went out for consultation to schools to see which schools would like to take on this particular resource, and Queensbridge responded positively. So this will help out meeting our rising demand of children with additional needs that we have in the town. So we're recommending that the proposals are approved and we extend the unit.
Members, any questions, comments, queries? Thank you. I am minded to approve the recommendations in the report.
Thank you.
Item 6 is the procurement of the independent visiting services for Bolton children, and you have an enclosure. The visiting service, I think Tracy's going to take us through this. Tracy?
I will, Chair. I'll do this very briefly. So, to be brief, we currently have an independent visiting service, which is a statutory responsibility, and that's provided by Bolton Lads and Girls Club. That contract is due to expire in 2024, and we're seeking permission to undertake a full procurement exercise to retender this statutory function. The retender is looking to a 3+1+1, which is a maximum of a 5-year contract. And the paper details a little bit about what independent visitors do, about the current service offer, and it also details some service recommendations which are detailed in 2.1. The current contract for this service is 30,000. That's following a fee uplift review which was undertaken in 2022, and therefore we're seeking approval to retender and maintain the independent visiting service for a contract value of 30,000. And that would be we have liaised with legal. There's no other issues in terms of legal. Full impact assessment has been screened undertaken. So we would ask for approval for option 1 to grant permission to retender the contract. And I'm happy to take any further questions, Chair.
Thank you, Tracy. Members, any questions, comments, queries? Thank you. I am minded to approve the recommendations in the report and to support option 1. Item 7 is the proposed expansion of Ladybridge High School. I'm just looking at yes, I can't just see the rest of it on this screen, I'm afraid. But I think Paul Rankin's going to take us through this. Paul?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this is proposed expansion of Ladybridge High School and Little Lever Academy to create an additional 150 places each to meet our secondary need over the next few years. The details are in the report. Quite happy to take any questions on any of the detail.
Members, any questions, comments, queries on this report? Thank you. I am minded, therefore, to approve the recommendations as contained within the report. I think that concludes our business for this morning's meeting.
Yes.
Can I thank you all for attending this morning on a rather inclement morning. I think summer may have gone, but I'm still got my fingers crossed that things will improve. I hope you have a nice rest of the day, and thank you all for attending. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor.